The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm CJ.
And the monitor's not on. Okay. All right.
Sorry about that, Chip.
That's all right. Not a problem.
Okay, well, the first thing I want to start with is an email that I received moments before the show started. And that's from the governor himself. Governor Baker files state tax holiday legislation. Today, Governor Charlie Baker filed legislation designating August 19th through 20th, 2017 as the Massachusetts sales tax holiday weekend to renew a tax-free weekend that generally occurs every year in the Commonwealth. The legislation would suspend the state's 6.25 retail sales tax for the weekend on purchases of goods costing $2,500 or less, which will provide some relief to consumers and bolster sales at businesses. The sales tax holiday gives consumers a much-needed break and supports businesses across the Commonwealth for our hard-working retailers, said Governor Baker. We look forward to working with the legislation to make this important weekend possible so the Commonwealth can shop local and make purchases tax-free. A tax-free weekend provides consumers with a great opportunity to support local businesses while saving money. This weekend will especially help out parents who are looking to make back-to-school purchases and look forward to working with our partners in the legislation to see this legislation passed. Now, if you remember correctly, our House and Senate said, we can't afford it. So
we can afford our pay raises.
But we can afford our pay raise. But we can't afford this. So I guess Governor Baker said, you know what? I'm going to put it out there, and now you decide who's going to do this. Because guess what? I'm not going to take the heat for this, baby.
Well, I'm interested to see what these reps do because they shot it down, but now they're going to have to shoot it down a second time when they know that the governor understands that the people need a break once in a while.
That's right.
So let's see what they do now, because, you know, the fact is they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. The fact is that it took the governor to intercede to get something for the taxpayer.
Right. And, you know, the thing is, I'm going to watch and see what our delegation votes here.
Of course.
I want to see what they do, because this
whatever the whip wants and whatever the speaker wants.
Right, but this is going to be a thermometer. It's going to be the barometer, the thermometer, whatever you want to call it, of how important is the consumer, how important is the taxpayer to these people. So if they vote no on it, you know they should not be reelected. And if they vote yes on it, why didn't you do it the first time? So you're right. They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't.
Exactly. And if it is a thermometer, it's not an oral.
Nothing coming out of the House or the Senate is oral, that's for sure. So, well, today, also just moments before the show went on the air, we received allegations that the mayor, Jazel Correa II, is putting signs up around the city without property owner permission. And one particular business, which has been very popular for signs for a long time, has said this year, I don't want signs at all. And has said that to every candidate who said, I want to put a sign up on your fence, on your property. And he said, no, 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 no. And then all of a sudden, signs from the mayor popped up. And a couple of candidates went back and said, hey, you said no signs. How come his signs are up? And he says, I never gave him permission to put those signs up. I'm going to call him right now. That was 24 hours ago. The signs are still up. So, Mr. Mayor, I have to ask you, because this isn't the first time we've heard this allegation, is your campaign team not asking questions and they think just because you're the mayor, the elected monarch, His Royal Highness, that you can just do what you want? I have a problem with that.
True.
I have a problem with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you should ask permission. You're putting it up on private property.
That's right.
it's actually a violation of the law. It's trespassing.
It's trespassing. And you know, but the thing is that as we've seen over the past 2 years almost, that for some reason the law doesn't apply to Fall River at all, or at least to its elected monarchy. And I have a severe problem with that.
Yeah, even agreements made with individuals on legal and binding agreements aren't abided by either, are they?
Well, no, we have a problem there, and I received confirmation today that a statement was made by somebody who knew that these proposed agreements were in place and they needed to be ratified, that they notified the appropriate bodies that no agreement exists. Yet, that appropriate body also has copies of the emails sent from the counsel for this body, one of the counsels for this body, that says very clearly the agreement must be ratified, that an agreement exists, okay, and it has a date on it. So if this attorney is lying to their clients, and I know this attorney's watching, if this attorney is lying to their client, that is a disbarable offense, and that attorney knows this. If this attorney is just trying to bide for time, it's not going to happen. So, without violating agreements that are in place, I can tell you now, although it seems that that agreement has been violated, it's important to recognize the fact that maybe people need to understand that sometimes what you're being told isn't always the truth, which really sucks. But I'll tell you, while we're speaking about attorneys, I was stunned. Absolutely, I got so many messages and texts about how stunned they were. Attorney Joe Macy actually said, and he said, and I'm going to preface it with this quote, "I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, but I agree with Mr. Ferry's statements in regards to this legislation." Except number 5. And number 5 was, and I'll read it word for word, "While I cannot support this proposal as a whole, especially whereas the mayor and the corporate council cannot endorse or recommend this option, that neither this office nor the mayor's office is taking any position on the merits of the draft. I am a firm believer in if you say it, you own it. And while corporate counsel may be offering this item as a point of discussion and to allow input as a property owner and taxpayer, I cannot support the increase of taxes, fees, and the important imposition of new fees without a significant benefit to the taxpayer and property owner."
Well, it's a significant benefit to the city. They're going to get, and you know what really disturbed me when I was watching it, which, you know, like I have to watch it in small doses. I have to tape it and then take it, in between, periods of meditation to get my blood pressure back down when I watch these things. First of all, Corporation Counsel Macy said that this is a policy matter. Well, we're going to play a semantic game here. But the bottom line is this is about potential increases in fees. And they were left blank in many cases, which, anybody out there, and they use Boston as a model for most of these changes, and obviously it's apples and oranges, because if you ever tried to look at an apartment in Boston, you'll know it's one of the most expensive places in the United States to live. Also, when you look at the average household income, it's double what it is in Fall River, or nearly double, even though they have a very high percentage of lower income people because of the size of the community. But they still have a household income that's at least more than 1.5 times what it is in the city of Fall River. And any of you who have ever gone to a restaurant and had the courage to order something that, when you look at the price list, it says market price, you know that you better have a pretty full wallet. Because when you get the bill, you may get a rude awakening, because it can be extremely expensive. To propose something like this after the tremendous fee increases, the tremendous pay raises given out in this last budget, and the fact that we taxed the maximum allowable limit under 2.5, it's just inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. We're going to penalize people already who own property by imposing fees and more fees and more fees and reinspection fees. And they're going to pass it down to the tenants who already can't afford their rents now. They're beginning to, many of these people have people being evicted because they can't afford their rent. Then they don't pay their rent and they destroy the property. Realistically, you know, when is enough in this community? When is somebody going to stand up and say, listen, we've got to start trying to control spending? I mean, how can you put something like this on to generate more revenue under the guise of whatever? Because it's all crap. It's about making more money from people. On the heels of raises and stipends, some in excess of $30,000. Pay raises that are almost equal the household income in the city of Fall River. And then they put this in, and I hate to tell you this, Corporation Counsel, Macy, and I'm saying that because that's exactly what you are, the Corporation Counsel, and I know you were called down as judge. While I respect the fact that you were a judge, you're no longer a judge. You're the Corporation Counsel, and when you're called down to the well to provide information to the City Council in your capacity, you should be called by the correct title. That's the way it should be. You are the Corporation Counsel. So, and I think I had a conversation with the chairman of that committee and told him that that's the way it should be. People are not called by a title they previously had. And if it is, it's not the preface. If you're a high-ranking military officer and you choose to do so, you can put Joe Smith, Admiral, U.S. Navy retired. But it comes at the end, not at the beginning. You're no longer an admiral. So you're a Corporation Counsel. You're being called down as a Corporation Counsel. If you have a title and you're being called down in that capacity, you should be called by the correct title. If you're going down there as a general citizen, you should be called by your name. Or former judge, if you're speaking. But when you're speaking as the Corporation Counsel, you should be speaking as the Corporation Counsel. And by the way, both the Corporation Counsel and the mayor, I'm going to tell you something, give you a little geography. You are not Switzerland. You can't be neutral on something like this. The mayor continually tells the council that he proposes and they dispose. Yet he wants the council to make a decision about increasing fees that, when in fact he's the one who has to really propose it. Not to take a position on this and say it's opening for discussion is just a little trap. So you can blame it on the council like you did when you said, I didn't raise taxes, I didn't raise fees, the city council did. No, the city council approved your recommendations. You propose, they dispose, as you remind them when they give you a hard time. Well, guess what? When you sent down this for consideration in front of the council to get their opinion, while I feel there's nothing wrong with that, but it also should be accompanied by what your feelings are on the issue. And if you don't want to make your feelings on the issue public, you should have asked for a private, you should have asked to discuss it in private with each councilor, because I don't think it's a good faith proposal. You're trying to trap people into agreeing to impose a greater financial burden on the people of Fall River that are already overtaxed and overburdened.
Yeah, but you know, here's the biggest problem I have with this, okay? City Council City Councilor Cliff Ponte, chairman of the Ordinance Committee, brought this back up. This item was tabled in March 21st, 2017. Prior to that, was tabled on November 9th, 2016. And he brought it up again. And let me tell the property owners what Cliff Ponte wants to bring out. And I'm sorry, he's the chairman. The buck stops with him. The buck stops with him. They proposed in this draft, basing it upon Boston, because this is what Boston has, a $15 per unit registration fee for rental units, capped at $2,500. That's what Boston charges. And then a $50 to $75 inspection fee when conducted by the city, and includes 2 inspections per fee. So, get this now. You got to go register your rental units. So you own a 6-decker. You own several 6-deckers, 6 apartments. At $15 a pop, you got to register them every year at $90. And then you have to pay $50 or $75, depending on what the city sets as a fee, to the city to have them come out and inspect it.
By an inspector who's already paid to conduct inspections.
Exactly.
By the way.
Right.
Just as an aside to that whole thing. So, okay.
Well, we're going to need more inspectors now, so we're going to have to pay for those guys too. And every time that apartment gets vacant, you, the property owner, are going to have to file with the city to let them know their property is vacant and it's going to be re-rented, and then you're going to have to pay for another inspection fee to get it inspected again. How many property owners do you think are going to want to buy property in Fall River?
Yeah, and not only that, look, we all know that property owners, especially property owners who are really going to get hammered with this because they own a lot of property.
Right.
They're going to pass this on to the tenants
tenant.
who can't afford it. The reason they're living in these places is they can't afford their own house. So now you're going to have all these fees tacked on. So now their monthly or weekly rents are up. And then what happens? We begin the vicious cycle. And I know many really, really good absentee landlords. They own a lot of property.
Yeah.
They don't live they can't live in all their properties. But I know a few that go out every single day. That's their job. They go out to maintain their properties. They go to their properties every single day, and they do repair work, and they maintain their properties, and they're doing this because they are invested in their own properties. They want to have good property. They want to do the right thing, and also by their tenants. So you're going to take these people in an economically depressed area and apply. This is what kills me about this city. When anytime they want to jack up fees or give themselves a giant pay raise, they start taking the biggest cities in the country. I remember years ago they even brought San Francisco and LA into the mix when they wanted to give the mayor a pay raise. It's like, really? You know, Boston is it's apples and oranges. You ever go to Boston? Anybody ever leave this city and actually drive to Boston and look at the high-rises? It's the capital of the state of Massachusetts, in case our financial team doesn't know that. And virtually every company that operates in Massachusetts has some kind of headquarters in Boston. You go down to Post Office Square, it's replete with office buildings. You've got, at lunchtime, you can see literally thousands of people in the summer sitting out there having their lunches and going back into their offices. And you look at the tax base in Boston, you look at the income in Boston, and many people live in Boston because they don't want to commute into that horror show every day. And the prices are astronomical. So, you know, they say, if you want to dance, you got to pay the band. Well, it's a big-time dance in Boston. And the people who live there, for the most part, unless they're on public housing, have pretty good jobs, have pretty high incomes. It does not correlate at all with the city of Fall River, a city that has almost a quarter of its population living below the poverty level, a city that now has the lowest household income in the state. We beat Lawrence. A city where, what was the statistic? Nearly 80% of the children are on the school lunch program?
80, yeah, 80, it's about 82% now.
82% of the, so almost, 8 out of 10 children need assistance to get a decent meal. And these are the people you're going to use this city to justify it. Really? I mean, that's just unconscionable.
And you know what? I'm not just going to put the blame on the mayor. I'm also putting the blame on Cliff Ponte. And I'm sorry, I have to. Because he's the one, and I'm going to quote him from yesterday, the only item I want on my agenda for today is this draft. That's exactly what he said to me. The only item I want on the agenda today is this draft. So this must be so important to him that he wanted to deal with nothing else yesterday. And you know what that tells me? Either he wants to start charging property owners, which as a real estate agent I find hard to believe, okay? Or he's in the bag for something.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
I don't know either.
I'm not going to speculate. But all I can say is, and obviously he's the chairman. He sets the agenda.
Exactly.
But I disagree. I will only say that if I was the chairman of that committee, there was no way this would ever come off the table.
Thank you. Exactly.
Until the mayor. And I don't care about the Corporation Council's position because his position is irrelevant.
Right.
I hate to upset you, Joe, but what you think about this isn't worth spit because all you are is the lawyer. You just have to check it for legalities. Nobody cares about what you think about it because you're the judicial branch. You're not part of the legislative branch that has to deal with the fees, or the executive branch that has to propose these fees. So forgive me if I don't care if you're not committed, if you're not going to commit to what your position is. But I would never take this off the table when I receive a letter that says, and I am quoting, I think it is important to reiterate that this is a discussion draft, it's in large block letters, only, and that neither this office, which I said I really don't care about, nor the mayor's office is taking any position on the merits of this draft, but rather circulating the same in order to allow. He's not even telling us if he agrees with this study or this document.
Right.
So you're going to take something like this off the table with no commitment as to whether the mayor is supporting this idea or not supporting this idea. So you can take your position based on you know that if the mayor's supporting it and you don't support it, you got a fight on your hands. Or if you both support it, well, it's going to go through. Or if he doesn't support it, why discuss it?
Right.
Because he's not going to propose it. So the whole thing is just it's just, well, you know what it is? It's Fall River. It's bizarre. Because everything we do is bizarre.
And that's why I said very clearly that the buck stops with the chairman. And the chairman happens to be Councilor Cliff Ponte. And he made it very clear to me yesterday, and I can't say it enough. He made it very clear to me yesterday. This is the only item I want on my agenda for today. And as you said, it wouldn't even have come off the table. It wouldn't even have come off the table. But
yeah.
And then, to close the meeting, he says, I want this sent out to me in ordinance format. He said, for further discussion. So he and Steve Long are on the same wavelength of, this is a great thing, this is a great thing. Or maybe he's not, but he appears to be.
Well, we all know that Steve Long's the mayor's shill. The mayor's trying to get more money in the budget because his budget is, and he knows it's overestimated, the revenue, income and revenue, and he wants to get it in, but he doesn't want to take the heat for doing it in an election cycle. So let's let Steve Long and the city council do his job and propose money, and then he can start saying, "Oh, look at all the money we're going to get. We're going to basically get every renter and every property owner in non-owner occupied to get hit again." Get hit again with their increases in water fees, their increases in permitting fees, their increases in taxes to the max. So here we go again, you know, another one. Another thing that flies in the face of everything that we hold sacred in this economy, which is you can't tax your way to prosperity, but Fall River continues to do it. That's why Fall River is in a downward spiral, period.
And it's a rapidly downward spiral.
Yep.
So. Well, enough on that and enough of beating up the counselor and corporate counsel Macy.
I do have to make one little quick comment, CJ. I know you actually, there were two groundbreaking, precedent-setting moments yesterday that included you.
Yep.
One was Joe Macy agreed with you for the most part, which was we should put this on a calendar and may even become a state holiday. I don't know, but that, and secondly, you got on the radio.
Yes, I did.
You got on the radio, which is very rare because they normally block you, and so that was another. And you talked about the mayor and the school budget and what a bunch of crap it was.
Yep.
And I think that you know, we had a few zombies call up and try to say this is a great idea, it's great budgeting. So I just got to take a second to kind of clarify with some of these people because. You know, I was told about one of the conversations, isn't this wise budgeting? No, it's not. I said, maybe you don't understand what a cost shift means. It just means that you're moving the cost of something from one to the other. So let me give you a little simple analogy. You're running your household budget, and you give your child an allowance. But now you want to say that you are giving him more in his allowance. So what you do is you add your electric light bill and your water bill that you pay to his allowance. And then you say, well, you're getting more money. No, you're not. He's not getting more money because that money is being paid out. It's just, it's the same budget. The money's coming from the same place. Especially, bad enough with the police. But the health care created a tremendous furor. If anybody remembers, we did a couple of shows on it, how the health care is a group. And when you carve them out and then do their experience separately, it completely skews the figures. That's why the school department was saying they're broke. They had, you know, they didn't have enough money to pay their bill. Yes, they did. We had over $5 million in the employee health care fund, which includes them, because it's a group. And it got so screwed up and so confused after 4 or 5 meetings that they ultimately removed it and put it back where it's been for the last 100 years or 50 years. But now they're moving it back. So it's that all it is a political move. You were right. And for the people who called and tried to justify it, wake up.
Hey, cost shifting is a wonderful thing. It's where the world is at. Cost shift, cost shift, cost shift. Real quickly, because we're actually out of time. Streetscapes is going to start in October. Yay! Just before the major election.
Waste more money. Hey, let's go.
Waste more money.
Let's waste some more money.
And Representative Keating, U.S. Representative Keating says that Trump is trying to screw Massachusetts. So.
Well,
can't write this crap.
No, you can't write it. And streetscapes, obviously, streetscapes will begin while your street remains looking like Fallujah.
Yep.
So if that doesn't make you angry and want to get out and vote, I don't know what will.
Hey, call your city councils and tell them you're PO'd about this proposal on properties. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Friday. Stay angry.